Hi, you're watching the Reddit Confessions channel. Grab a seat, because this story doesn't start the way you think it will. The music was too loud for a rooftop, and the drinks were too fancy for people who didn't know how to apologize. She spun in slow motion, that laugh I hadn't heard in months slicing through the bass like a dagger made of sound. And there he was, hands on her waist, leaning in like he had the right. No one saw me watching, not even her. She said she'd be networking. That's what she called it. Said I could come if I wanted, but it might be boring for you. She didn't expect me to show up, but I did, quietly, unannounced. No big scene. And from the far end of that glass and concrete jungle, I saw my wife press her body against someone else like I had evaporated from her memory. Like I never existed. I didn't charge over. I didn't yell. I didn't break his nose. I just stepped back into the shadows. They kissed. It wasn't a peck. It was the kind of kiss people steal in movies. The kind that makes you forget consequences exist. She smiled up at him, not a flicker of hesitation in her face. I blinked once and walked away, down 17 floors in an elevator that stank of perfume and artificial courage, through a lobby where no one looked twice at the man whose soul had just been hollowed out. Outside, I could still hear the thump of music, but inside me, silence. Complete, terrifying silence. I walked for blocks. My phone buzzed once. Then again. Then nothing. By morning, I heard her sobbing behind our locked apartment door. And I just stood there, listening. That was the first time she cried. But not the last. She didn't knock. She pounded on the door like she owned regret. Like the weight of her choices could be erased with noise and desperation. I sat on the other side, back against the wall, staring at a framed photo of us from a trip to Asheville 3 years ago. We looked happy in that picture, hands tangled, foreheads touching, like the world was small and safe. It wasn't. Not anymore. "Lowell, please," she cried, voice cracking. "Just talk to me. Please." I didn't respond. I wanted to. God, I wanted to throw open the door and ask why. Scream it, sob it, whisper it, anything, but I didn't. Because I knew if I saw her face, I'd believe her. And I didn't want to be convinced this was all some big misunderstanding. I saw what I saw. There was no one seeing it. Eventually, she slid down the door and went quiet. I thought she'd left. But hours passed. Around 5 a.m., I opened the door slowly, heart pounding like it knew something I didn't. She was there, asleep on the hallway carpet, knees tucked under her, mascara streaked down her cheek like ink spilled from a broken promise. Her phone buzzed. I shouldn't have looked, but I did. A message from someone named M. "Did he find out? Call me when you can. Last night was risky, but worth it." I closed the door. Everything inside me collapsed in silence. Not rage. Not even grief. Just this deep, bone-heavy exhaustion, the kind that doesn't go away with sleep. It felt like she'd taken something from me I didn't know I was still holding on to. Trust? Hope? Myself? The next day, I didn't go to work. I didn't eat. I barely moved. She texted again and again. I messed up. It didn't mean anything. I was drunk. He kissed me first. I didn't plan it. "I love you. Please come home." But I was home. She was the one who'd left, even if she didn't pack a bag. That night, she came back with takeout and a bouquet of flowers she hated, tulips. I'd bought them once, not knowing she was allergic. She pretended to love them back then. Now she brought them like a peace offering. Like we could eat noodles and forget. "I didn't sleep with him," she said softly. I didn't ask. She stood there in the kitchen, waiting for me to say something, to shout, to cry, to tell her to leave, or to beg her to stay. But I couldn't even look at her. Not because I hated her, because I still loved her. And that felt worse. So I said nothing. And she finally realized silence wasn't passive. It was loud. She stayed. I didn't ask her to, and I definitely didn't say she could, but she stayed anyway. Slept on the couch, barely moved, barely spoke. We floated around each other like ghosts in our own home. Except one of us had something to hide, and the other already knew the truth. And no matter how quiet the apartment got, that lie screamed through the walls. She tried being helpful. Dishes, laundry, making coffee exactly how I liked it. Like she was trying to resurrect a routine she'd already killed. I'd catch her watching me with those wet, tired eyes like she was silently asking for permission to go back in time. But I was done pretending time travel was real. That's when I remembered the security cam. Months ago, I installed a small motion-activated camera near the front door, one of those cheap ones you buy online during Black Friday, mostly for peace of mind. I never really used it. Until now. I sat in my room with the lights off, scrolling through the cloud footage. It started with her leaving that night in a hurry. Hair curled, black heels, a dress I didn't know she owned. Then hours of nothing. Until 2:47 a.m. She stumbled back in. Alone. But then something else. For minutes later, the elevator doors opened again. The man from the party stepped into the hallway. Carter. That was his name, right? The one she said she barely knew. The one who kissed her without warning. He stood outside our door, straightening his shirt and checking his phone. He never knocked. He didn't need to. She opened the door before he raised his hand. And then she kissed him. The camera had no sound, but it didn't matter. I watched her pull him inside. I watched the door close. I watched the timestamp roll forward, 13 minutes and 42 seconds, before he left, adjusting his collar and grinning at nothing. I didn't feel anger. Not the kind people expect. It wasn't fire. It wasn't even pain. It was like watching my own obituary, written in pixels. She lied to my face. She said they didn't sleep together. She said she was drunk. She said she loved me. So I sent her the video. No words. No message. Just the clip. From the other room, I heard her phone buzz. Then silence. Then a gasp. And then, shuffling, footsteps, a quiet knock on my bedroom door. "Lowell," she whispered. I didn't answer. I couldn't. I just stared at the paused frame of her kissing him, his hand on the small of her back like he belonged there. And I wondered how long she'd been a stranger pretending to be my wife. She didn't knock again. This time she opened the door without waiting. I didn't look at her. I couldn't. My laptop was still open, the frame frozen on her smile, the one she saved for someone else. She stepped into the room slowly, like she was afraid the floor might collapse beneath her. And honestly, I kind of hoped it would. I waited for excuses, for blame shifting, for some pathetic version of "I was lonely," or "it was a mistake." But instead, she sat down on the edge of the bed like a child who'd been caught with a broken toy and didn't know how to say sorry. "Lowell," she started, barely audible. I didn't think you'd find out like that." That was her opening line. Not an apology. Not even denial. Just regret that she got caught. I let the silence stretch, hoping it would weigh on her the way her betrayal was crushing me from the inside out. She ran her hands through her hair, the same hair he probably touched 2 nights ago. My stomach twisted. "I never meant for it to go that far," she said next, and I actually laughed. It was this bitter, hollow sound that didn't even feel like it came from me. "You didn't mean to sleep with him?" I asked, finally turning to her. "Or you didn't mean to get caught?" She didn't answer. Instead, tears welled in her eyes, like I was supposed to feel bad for her, like her heart had been shattered. She tried to reach for my hand, but I pulled back. "Tell me the truth," I said, and my voice cracked worse than hers. "How long?" That's when she broke. 2 months, she whispered. "It wasn't just physical, Lowell. It started at work. He listened to me. You stopped listening a long time ago." That hit harder than I expected, because maybe it was true. Maybe I had stopped listening. Maybe I'd been tired, distant, caught up in deadlines and distractions. But none of that gave her permission to find comfort in someone else's arms, and then lie about it. "You should have talked to me," I said, my voice shaking. "You should have told me you were unhappy. Instead, you brought him here. Into our home." She nodded, eyes down. I know I don't deserve forgiveness. I didn't know how to fix us, and he was there. It wasn't supposed to happen like this." I stood up then, walked out of the room and into the hallway, because I couldn't breathe with her in that space. I leaned against the wall, the weight of everything pressing down on my chest. She followed me, quiet as a shadow, and asked the one question I didn't expect. "Do you want me to leave?" I didn't answer right away, because part of me wanted to scream yes. "Pack your things. Get out. Let me hate you in peace." But another part of me, the broken, bleeding, pathetic part, just didn't want to be alone. And that terrified me more than anything she had done. 3 days after her confession, I agreed to have dinner with her. Not because I was ready to forgive. I wasn't even close. But because I needed answers that weren't written in text messages or whispered through doors. She cooked, which was already strange, because Fiona never cooked unless it was a birthday or a bribe. She made the pasta I always said reminded me of my mom's, down to the garlic bread and the lemon iced tea. The table was set like we were pretending to be okay. She tried smiling. I didn't. Halfway through the meal, she put her fork down and said, I want to be honest. All of it. No more hiding. I was chewing and stopped mid-bite. I nodded. It was the first time we'd really looked at each other since the video. There was this strange sincerity in her face, like she was standing at the edge of a cliff and finally realized there was no soft landing. Only impact. He wasn't the first, she said. The room spun. I blinked, but her face didn't change. She wasn't crying. She wasn't apologizing. She just sat there, completely still, as if she'd practiced saying those 4 words in the mirror and was proud she got them out. What do you mean? I asked, though I already knew. There was someone else about a year ago. Brief. Stupid. It didn't last. I hated myself after it happened. I thought it would be a wake-up call. But we just kept drifting. My mouth went dry. My ears rang. A year ago? That would have been right around our 10th anniversary. The weekend we went to the coast. The weekend she bought me that watch I never wore because it felt too expensive. That whole trip. She was cheating during that? You looked me in the eyes, I said, my voice barely above a whisper. You gave me gifts. You told me we were stronger than ever. She wiped her mouth with a napkin like we were having a normal adult conversation. I was scared to lose you, and I was ashamed. But the truth is, I haven't felt close to you in a long time. I laughed then, not because it was funny, but because I had nothing left inside me to hold it all in. So your solution was to cheat twice? With 2 different people? She didn't flinch. I didn't know how else to feel anything again. I'm not blaming you, lol, but it felt like I was disappearing. You didn't notice. You never asked. My hands curled into fists on the table. Because I thought we were fine. Because you pretended we were fine. You wore the ring. You said the words. You smiled in every photo. And I believed all of it. She reached for my hand, and I recoiled so fast the chair nearly tipped. I stood up, heart pounding through my ribs like it was trying to escape my chest. I want a separation, I said. I hadn't planned to say it. It just came out, raw and final. She froze. No, she whispered. Please, Lowell. I'm telling you the truth because I want to fix this. We can try. We can start over. Don't throw it away. But I wasn't the one who threw anything. She did, over and over again. And now she was begging me to gather the pieces and pretend they weren't cracked. I walked to the bedroom, grabbed my overnight bag, and packed 3 days' worth of clothes. When I passed her on the way out, she looked at me like she didn't recognize me anymore. Maybe for the first time. I didn't recognize myself either. I didn't have a plan. I just drove. I didn't even know where I was going until I ended up parked outside the old motel near the bus station. The one with flickering signs and vending machines that eat your dollars without apology. It wasn't comfortable, and the sheets smelled like detergent trying too hard, but it was quiet. It was mine. And for the first time in weeks, I didn't have to pretend. I lay on the bed staring at the ceiling, and it hit me. I had no idea who my wife really was. I had spent over a decade building a life with someone who could lie so easily, who could make dinner with a smile while dragging me through emotional quicksand. The next morning, I woke up to 27 unread messages and a dozen missed calls. She was unraveling. At first, they were calm. Please talk to me. Then they turned frantic. Where are you? Are you safe? I didn't sleep at all. Then came the shift. If you won't fight for this, maybe I won't either. I made mistakes, but you gave up. And then came the one that made my blood freeze. I told my parents. They're furious with you. Furious with me. That's when I realized she was rewriting the narrative. Of course she was. I knew her well enough to know she couldn't handle being the villain in any story. She needed control. She needed sympathy. And if she couldn't get it from me, she'd get it from someone else. Later that day, her mother called me. Voicemail. Tight voice. Formal. Lowell, I don't know what's happening between you two, but Fiona is devastated. I always thought you were more stable than this. Please be mindful of how you're handling things. It was laughable. I was unstable. For walking away from someone who admitted to multiple affairs and gaslit me for months? Fiona wasn't just spinning the story. She was already painting herself as the heartbroken wife abandoned by her cold, distant husband. But she made a mistake. A big one. She forgot about Jules. Jules is Fiona's younger sister. She and I were never close, but we always had a mutual understanding. She's sharp, observant, and allergic to bull. That night, as I sat outside the motel scrolling through Fiona's social media, I got a message from her. I know she's lying. I saw her with that guy. Months ago. My heart stopped. I called her immediately. She didn't sugarcoat anything. I caught them at a cafe back in May. They weren't just talking. He kissed her. I told her to come clean. She promised she would. But knowing Fiona, she didn't need to finish the sentence. I asked Jules why she hadn't told me sooner. Because I didn't know how bad it was until now, she said. I'm sorry, but you deserve to know the truth. That conversation hit harder than I expected. It wasn't just betrayal. It was a carefully constructed campaign of deception, one she'd built over time with enough layers to keep me confused and quiet. But that silence, it was ending. Because the next time she tried to twist the truth, I'd be ready. And she wouldn't see it coming. I didn't sleep after Jules called. My mind was racing, not just with the betrayal itself, but with how deeply Fiona had manipulated the story. It wasn't just infidelity, it was a performance. A version of events she was already distributing like a press release. I realized if I didn't act now, people would believe her version. Her curated victimhood. Her carefully softened lies. The next morning, I opened my laptop and started writing. Not to post. Not yet. I wasn't trying to humiliate her. But I needed to collect everything. A timeline. The first signs of her distance. The night of the rooftop party. The camera footage. The deleted texts I'd recovered from our shared cloud backup. The voicemail from her coworker. Yes, he called too, sounding nervous and guilty, telling me it wasn't supposed to happen like this and begging me not to blow it up. I compiled it all into a folder titled Truth, just in case. Because if Fiona pushed me again, if she tried to publicly blame me for the collapse of our marriage, I wanted to be ready. And somehow, knowing I had it all, the evidence, the timeline, the receipts, gave me back some of the power she'd chipped away for years. That afternoon, I went back to the apartment. I didn't tell her I was coming. I still had my key. The door opened slowly, and there she was, sitting on the couch, phone in hand, hair messy, surrounded by tissue boxes and untouched takeout. She looked up and froze like she'd seen a ghost. I thought you left for good, she said quietly. I did, I replied. But I came back for the rest of my things. She stood, panic flashing across her face. Lowell, please, just talk to me. One more time. I'll answer anything. I'll tell you everything. You already did. I just needed confirmation. I saw the moment she realized something had changed in me. I wasn't broken anymore. I wasn't begging or avoiding or questioning myself. I was done grieving what we were. Now I was watching what little remained of her control slip through her fingers. I know you told your parents, I added. And I know what version you gave them. That I walked out with no explanation. That I wasn't emotionally available. That I let our marriage fall apart. She looked down, guilty but silent. But here's the thing, I said. I'm not going to defend myself to your family. I don't need to. Because one day, they're going to hear the full story whether I tell it or not. She swallowed hard. So what now? Are you going to ruin me? No, I said, and I meant it. You're going to do that on your own. I grabbed my suitcase from the closet and my spare laptop from the shelf. She tried to follow me out, but I turned before opening the door. I loved you so much I stopped seeing the signs. And you loved yourself so much you thought I never would. I walked out. She didn't follow. By the time I reached the bottom of the stairs, my phone vibrated. A message from her sister Jules. She's panicking. I think she knows it's over. And it was. Not with fireworks. Not with vengeance. But with a calm she never expected. Because when a liar loses control of the story, they unravel faster than truth ever could. 3 weeks after I left, the apartment felt like a memory I'd walked out of. I stayed with a friend at first, then found a short-term rental on the edge of town. Nothing fancy, just quiet. Somewhere I could hear myself think. Somewhere no one knew me as Fiona's husband. Just me. She kept texting. Not every day, not begging like before, but long, guilt-soaked messages I stopped opening. Apologies turned into nostalgia, then into silence. It was over. Truly over. And this time, I didn't feel like I was the one being left behind. One morning, I got an email from her mom. Short. Surprising. I'm sorry. I didn't know the truth. I do now. I hope you're okay. I didn't reply, but it gave me something I didn't know I needed, validation. Not revenge, not justice, just recognition that I wasn't crazy, that I wasn't the villain in her version of events. But the biggest shift came on a random Tuesday. I was in a bookstore, flipping through a collection of essays on grief and starting over. That's when I saw her. Not Fiona. Jules. She smiled when she noticed me. Not awkwardly, warmly. We ended up grabbing coffee next door. What was meant to be 15 minutes turned into 2 hours. We didn't talk much about Fiona, surprisingly. Just about life. Music. Family. Regret. Healing. That conversation reminded me of something I thought I'd lost completely. Connection. And not romantic. Just human. Honest. Real. I still don't know where the road goes from here. Maybe I'll be alone for a while. Maybe I need that. But I've stopped blaming myself for everything that happened. And more importantly, I've stopped trying to rewrite it in my head. I walked away from the person who broke me. And somehow, in the silence that followed, I found myself again. That's the end of this story, but maybe the beginning of something better. What part of this story hit you the hardest? Have you ever discovered a lie that changed everything? Drop your thoughts in the comments. We read every one. Don't forget to subscribe to Reddit Confessions for more unforgettable stories of betrayal, healing, and everything in between.